What should I know about Veritasium?
It was under the blood moon. I felt my heart come. I held you in this strange light, a place where
So
shadows
basically, I'm
run.
looking to tie the entire world to Veritaseum.
So let's go ahead and get started. Reggie, if you don't mind, I'll continue on with my introductions. We're continuing our series on MISDA. Money is a depreciating asset with Reggie Middleton. Short bio on Reggie. He's the creator and author of the Boom Bust blog Financial Advisory, called The Collapse of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns in 2007, 2008, founded the Veritaseum Project in 2013, 2014, the progenitor of decentralized finance technology, the hottest tech in the crypto space. In February of 2020, called for global recession before COVID hit and worldwide lockdowns took effect. And you reminded me to put this one in time before last, called stagflation 6 months ago when nobody else was talking about it. Now it's the hot topic on every financial news show. Granted a patent by the Japanese Patent Office in October of 2020, legitimizing his claim to the DeFi space. The big brain from Brooklyn, Mr. Reggie Middleton. Welcome.
Thank you. And we're patent pending in several other jurisdictions around the world. So all the big ones, financially, economically.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, listen, we're continuing on with our series on MISDA. Several members of the Veritaseum official channel wanted you to expand your views on wealth creation. So I'll get us kicked off with our first question. Wealth creation is a mystery, in my opinion, because for the average person, it's all we can do just to get by. The title of this series is MISDA, Money is a Depreciating Asset. My father always told me to save as much money as I possibly could. What, in your opinion, is true wealth? And the follow-up question, why do most people fail to put together a strategy which allows them to create generational wealth for their families?
Okay. Well, something very, very minor and picky, but I call it MISADA. And so a lot of people are, is MISDA different from MISADA? So it causes me excess explanation. So
that's my fault. I misplaced the acronym.
Nope, absolutely no problem. Yours probably makes more sense anyway. But and I've been having this discussion several times over the last few days and probably over the last 2.5 decades now. My oldest son is 29, and I have this habit of going into the schools and being a guest teacher of the things that I happen to be, or I feel that I'm knowledgeable about with valuation, investments, finance, technology, applied economics. I'm not an economist at all, definitely not one from academic training, but I do pay attention to what goes on around me, and I try to do the same for around the world. And one thing I noticed is that academic matriculation is trained poverty, basically. I guess a more politically correct way of saying it, there is no politically correct way of saying it, so let me just put that aside. The capitalists need labor, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's how you perpetuate your status in the capital hierarchy, okay? Usually, the higher you are in the capital hierarchy, over time, the higher you are in the socioeconomic hierarchy, because significant capital tends to buy material social status over time. It might not be able to do it in one generation. You might not be able to buy your way into the club over multiple generations. Yes, I could give examples, but it would really piss off some of you guys, and we're going to stay out of things such as politics and others, and we'll stick to something that's less controversial. The reason why, there's some empirical evidence, anecdotal but obvious evidence of academic matriculation being anti-wealth building. Let's use common sense, okay? We've all matriculated. We all went through grammar school and grade school, high school. Many, if not most of us, went through college, the undergrad, and I think a good significant chunk of us went through grad school. Okay, I actually never went to grad school. Of those teachers, okay, were any of those teachers financially wealthy?
Most were
people should
not.
say no. Okay, now I do know of some teachers who teach because they have a love of teaching, and they made a lot of money, and they can actually afford to teach. Okay, but most of the teachers are not wealthy. And of those teachers that are wealthy, did they get wealthy from what they're teaching? And are they teaching wealth? Or are they teaching a curriculum, right? Created by the government and the bureaucracy surrounding that particular school system. Okay. One example that came up, we were discussing through the Twitter Spaces conversation I'm having. I give these mini lectures and AMAs. And uh, we were discussing software, open source, and how patents are bad according to a certain open source developer community and people who listen to them. And I say, no, patents protect intellectual property, and property is a cornerstone of capitalism in this country and in many other areas, whether it's capitalistic or not. Okay, property is still value. And intellectual property is intellectual value. So I said, getting a patent is very, very important, particularly if you have an idea that's truly, truly transformational. Okay, that is one of the most important things you could do, because even if you don't have the capital to take that idea, that intellectual capital, right, and develop it into a product in the market that develops cash and revenues, you still have preserved their actual property position. And then, a lot of people came across and they said, I see that. I said, intellectual property is no different from personal property, your car, from real property, your house, your farm, an empty lot, real estate, office building, or financial property, stocks, bonds, and everything else. It's all property, all protected under which amendment was it? 14th Amendment? I can't remember. All protected.
That's right.
Under the Constitution. So now I had a few people, thinking for themselves instead of listening to a couple of open source developers who simply repeated what they heard someone else say, or more damaging, or sticking to a mantra that benefits them when it's handy. So a lot of people believe in taking others' property as long as it's others' property that they're taking, but they're the last ones to volunteer their property. So if you really believe in open source being the way to go, well, Reggie's a little short on cash. I need for you guys to open source your bank account and all your crypto wallets. Pass your private keys over. Okay. I'll do the right thing with it, trust me. But since there's not a long line of takers for that proposition, they believe in property like I do. So now that I got the crowd thinking more independently, they say, but a patenting is hard. I don't understand the process. It is very difficult. I don't know how to do it. I say, so have you went to school? Yes. I have an MBA, I have an MS degree, and I have a bachelor's degree. So basically, you've been in school the better part of 23 years, 20 years, and you don't know how to patent yet, right? Or you don't know the patent system in your particular country. Yet you've learned trigonometry, you've learned calculus, you learned geometry, you learned geology. A lot of these things that were not simple, right? Took a decent amount of effort to learn, yet you've used not once in your lifetime, and something that could possibly make or break you, it's never been touched in school, including business school, including engineering school, including the biomedical sciences, pharmaceutical sciences. That's ridiculous. But why is it like that? It's like that because academic matriculation was made to train laborers. Laborers should not be patenting things, because if they do, then they become capitalists. Capitalists don't make good laborers. Okay? Capitalists need laborers. Laborers should not do things like try and obtain property. So if you go through a lot of patent filings, most of the patent filings, we look at the assignee line. That's who the patent belongs to, because it was the property and the rights to that patent was transferred to a person or entity. Almost all the assignees are corporations, the capitalists. The inventors are usually individuals, and they sign over their rights, their property, to somebody else. So that's the way business is done. I'm not there to argue about it, but if you want to know how to obtain wealth, Okay, start with yourself. Okay, the first thing everybody says, should I invest in this? Should I invest in that? You invest in yourself first and foremost, because that's the one thing that can't be taken from you. Okay,
Great.
educate yourself. But when you educate yourself, make it real education. I'm not saying all school is bad, but if you're going to follow a teacher and that teacher is teaching, you pick a subject, okay? Make sure he's well versed in that subject and proven successful, okay? And then you learn from him. But then it's much less of a college professor student and more of a expert and disciple, okay?
Right.
And that's how things were done before academic matriculation became, you know, the standard du jour. So that was pretty long-winded, but I'm fairly passionate on that topic because it's sort of a shame that something that is so valuable now, and every paradigm shift, intellectual property becomes the most valuable thing in the world, except for your health. Second to health and family. So third, second to health and family, intellectual property becomes the most valuable thing during every paradigm shift. Give you examples of paradigm shifts. The discovery of the here we go back, the discovery of the wheel, the discovery of fire, the discovery of electricity, discovery of the internet, the combustion engine, and the steam engine for railroads, the integrated circuit, big paradigm shift, discovery of the computer, semi-related to the IC, the internet, massive paradigm shift,
100%.
mobile computing, extension of the IC, telecom, and the internet. And now we have what I consider the granddaddy of them all, the distributed ledger technologies. Okay, and that is the ability to transfer value, not just information or light or actual things or property, but actual value. This is so scary that every government has turned against it in the world almost. Okay, super long with the answer to just one question. I can't do that for every question. So let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's good. No, that dovetails nicely into our next question. Of the top 100 people on the Forbes billionaire list, 11 have MBAs. Harvard is the most popular school. U of Penn, Stanford, and Yale are very close behind. It seems that there's definitely a pedigree which gives you access to creating wealth. There are several university dropouts who have made the list, but it's very rare. What are some of the unconventional strategies you would use to break into this club, the Billionaires Club?
Observation and education, number one. If you take a look at that club, well, let's take a look at what I consider some of the unspoken commonalities and threads. 11 of the top 100 have MBAs, okay? So a lot of people would say, well, you should get an MBA. No, that's not what the numbers say. The numbers say that 8.9 times out of 10, you will be 8.9 times out of 10, there will be a member of the top 100 of Forbes list without an MBA. So there's an 8.9 times greater chance of becoming a member of that list without an MBA. So when you look at it, you have to look at what the numbers say. A significant amount of them went to the Ivy League, okay? So does that mean that getting an Ivy League education increases your chance of being part of that list? Not necessarily, because if you look at the dropouts, a lot of those dropouts went to the Ivy League and they didn't get an Ivy League education. From what I understand is the Ivy League is an old boys club, primarily old boys club, because if you look at that top 100, you look at the top 20, how many are self-made women who went to the Ivy League? So you filter by 0, so that's basically your historical chance, okay? So it's not an old person's club, it's not an old boys and women's club, it's an old boys club, okay? Out of that top 10 or 15 self-made who went to Ivy League, how many are African-American, Latino, Central or South or Northern Asian? I can help you out without looking. I'll take a guess. 0 to not many, okay? So that club is basically the club that started this country. They perpetuate on and they still have a very, very tight grasp. So we look at the information, we look at the data. This is all anecdotal, by the way. So I haven't, ran the numbers. I haven't even taken a close look at it. But I took a cursory look And basically, it shows you that there is a group, you know, that you call the skull and bones group that perpetuates wealth generation after generation. Okay, that group is pierced, and usually pierced in a very, very large way. When is it pierced? Usually during every single technological paradigm shift. So that shows that every time you have a technological paradigm shift, the staircase to that top 100 group is open. I wouldn't say wide open, but it's open enough where that shifts significantly. Okay, I'm pretty sure there are more women on that group than at any time in history. I'm pretty sure there are more non-white, non-male members of that group than any time in history. And I'm pretty sure there are more first, second, or third generation immigrants on that group than in any time in history. Okay, that group is going to expand even more because, as I said, this paradigm shift is greater than any other in my lifetime, and probably any other in the last century or two. I consider this paradigm shift the equivalent of electricity, the Tesla times, if not greater. Now, I am not unobjective. I am objective. I am not unbiased. I do have a human bias because I'm deeply ensconced in crypto, but I do try my best to remain objective. Okay, so what else can we attain from that group? That group has perseverance. Almost everybody in that group has failed and failed multiple times and failed miserably. Okay, failing is the lesson, the lessons that you need to succeed. Okay, I have to take a look at the group and go over it because everything else would be speculation. So I don't want to talk out of turn. I like to be factually driven. But did I answer the question?